Hey everyone, I'm Angie Miller and I'm the host of Strong Mind, Strong Body. And in this upcoming episode, I have a fascinating guest. Her name is Jennifer Pressimone and she is a clinical aromatherapist. And she takes us through time travel. We go back in time through scent. And she talks about how we can transport our brain and our body just by virtue of smell and how we associate memories and how scent can actually help motivate us. It can also drive behaviors, help us go to sleep. I think you'll really enjoy this episode. And afterwards, I hope that you will like, follow, and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you in the episode. Hey everyone, welcome to Strong Mind, Strong Body. I'm your host, Angie Miller. And today we are going to talk about traveling through scent, which is kind of funny because I just finished the best book about traveling through time. So traveling through scent is like traveling through time because we're going to talk about how to transport your brain and your body and the power of scent in helping you do that. I think this is fascinating because I, for one, think that smells will transport me in a moment's time, just like music will. So I have Jennifer on my show today. And do you know what? I'm afraid to say her last name, so I'm going to let her introduce herself. She has some amazing expertise in all the smells and all the ways that we can use aromatherapy to transport us back. So Jennifer, come on in and introduce yourself.
Hi, Angie. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Jennifer Pressimone. I'm a clinical aromatherapist and CEO of GenSense, a holistic aromatherapy company, and I'm focused on providing personalized custom blends and classes that help others heal on a deeper level, really working on mindset and emotional healing using essential oils and olfaction therapy.
All right. Well, Jennifer, I'm so glad you're here today. And the thing is that I want you all to know before we get started, even if you never ever plan to pick up a bottle of aromatherapy and your buy-in isn't there for whatever reason, it's not your belief system, no worries. Because what we're really talking about today and what we're really focused on is that fascination with smells and what they do to our brain and our body. So that's really what we're focused on. So Jen, you had mentioned something fascinating in our communication, that smell is the only sense that bypasses our conscious thoughts entirely. Can you walk us through kind of what's literally happening in our brain when we catch a whiff of something as we walk by?
Yeah, and aromatherapy is more than just smelling an essential oil. It's our sense of smell really brings in food and food quality and how we enjoy food in our environment. It alerts us of danger. So our sense of smell is so powerful. And when you take in a scent, when you're smelling an essential oil or you're breathing in a scent, it's going in through your nose, connecting with your brain, and going straight to your limbic system. And this is what makes your sense of smell so special, is that it does bypass that logic center. So we can't overthink it. We can't overanalyze it. When you take in a scent, it's connecting to that limbic system to hit your amygdala and your hippocampus, which is where it's going to trigger memories and emotions faster than you can snap your fingers, faster than you can blink, and going right into help connect with your nervous system, which is going to send messages throughout your whole body and helping you to relax or helping you to energize. And so that's what makes it so powerful. And bypassing that logic means that we're going to get instant reaction. We're going to have an instant response. So for those with an aging brain or, with long COVID or dementia, where, that process starts to diminish, because it's bypassing that logic region, it's still going to work. And that's why it helps with anxiety and agitation, other emotions that we're going through.
I personally love the way you explain that because you had me at it bypasses logic, so we don't overthink it. So it's one of those things that is automatic and we can't, cognition isn't involved. Well, both for what you said, people with long COVID who I still have friends who say, I can't smell anything still. And I think, gosh, what would that be like? Or to your point, like our senses dull as we age too, so we don't smell as well. And then, like you mentioned, those with dementia. But the good news is when something bypasses cognition, we can't, those of us who are always in our head, literally can't overthink it. And those of us who are losing our ability to think rationally and all the things, it doesn't matter because smell can take us there. So, what I really hear you say in a nutshell, a smell can be so healing, and it doesn't matter where we are in our cognition or anything else. Smell can just still be healing. So, that's what I got out of that. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. And, the bigger part of that is it removes all those layers of judgment, resistance, and defensive walls that we want to put up. And that's where we get that true, deeper level of healing in a very subtle, gentle, but impactful way to help us heal the whole body.
Well, in a way, it's like taking the ego away, right? I mean, it's just like any kind of therapy, whether you believe in it or not. There's different types of therapies that totally drive down the ego. There are where ego doesn't get in the way, thoughts don't get in the way, defense mechanisms don't get in the way, and it can go to a deeper level. And that's what I hear you say smell can do. So we've all had that experience. I know I have, where smell will just transport me back in time, where I'll walk into a place and I'll literally think, God, that smells like the perfume my grandma used to wear, or that smells like my mom's house. And I know you covered a little bit of it, but give me more of the science behind why scent memories are so vivid and emotional.
Yeah, when we're taking an ascent and again, it's bypassing that logic region, it's going right to your limbic system where it's activating the amygdala, which is our emotional center. It's where we can have courage over fear, or when fear is heightened and courage is a little bit less, that's where it's being altered. And then it also activates the hippocampus, which is where we are storing our memories. And so when you take an ascent, it's going to your file cabinet in your limbic system to go through and say, oh, here's what scent is triggering this emotion that's attached to this memory. And when you can walk through that process and really be aware of what's happening, what memories are coming up, what thoughts are attached to those memories, what emotions are attached to those memories, it drives that in even deeper. And so that's why they're so much more vivid, and it gives rise, or it gives proof to my Angelou's quote, people might not remember your name, but they're always going to remember how you made them feel. It's because it's activating this part of our body where the emotions are so strong. And quite honestly, if you think about it, a lot of people might not remember all of the facts and the details, but they do remember how they were feeling in that moment, the emotions that were coming up, the fear, the anxiety, the worry, the grief, the anger, whatever was coming up. It's so much more powerful. And like you said, so much more vivid.
Well, and it's true. And honestly, it can go both ways, right? Because I mean, there are times when I smell something, and of course, I have a negative memory associated with it. And when we think about people who've been through really traumatic experiences, you know, the cognition shuts down, right? Like we misremember, we go into fight or flight, and we're not processing, but we are smelling. Those core senses are active. And so, yeah, it works both ways. We can remember, I can walk by and smell a perfume and think, oh my gosh, that smells like something one of my old teachers used to wear that I didn't enjoy or something. It's weird how scent is such a powerful thing. And I'm sure because there is such emotion behind it, it is why we're all drawn to different kinds of perfumes. Plus our body, our physiology responds to scents differently, right? Like a perfume on me smells different than a perfume on you, and that has to do with hormones and all the other things, right? So scent, I do think that it's fascinating because it does, we do respond to it differently. You might think a scent is beautiful and you might be drawn to it, and I might be repulsed by it, to be frank, right? So
But that's the beauty of it, and that's why when you understand true aromatherapy practices, not just, of course, smelling a scent can make you feel relaxed or not, but when you dive deeper into those meetings and you understand how to interpret scent responses, that's where you start understanding the person, you understand yourself more, and that's where the personalization comes in, because you're right. I might smell lavender and love it, which means I'm in a place where my nervous system is ready. It's open and receptive and ready to maybe relax. Whereas if you're repulsed by lavender, it tells me that there's something going on in the body where your defenses are really high. Maybe you still are in fight or flight or flee mode. And we need to dive in deeper. And when you do a true aromatherapy session and you're smelling of a different oils in a particular order, or in, just in grabbing oils intuitively, when you go through, when you smell different oils, it allows your personal emotional story to unfold, because we have different backgrounds, we have different genetics, we have different conditionings from our environments who make us who we are, our unique individual. And that's why I love adding in aromatherapy, because even if it gives you a negative response, it tells us something. And then maybe we can use another oil as an anchor scent to help you, bring you into this safe space and make you feel a little bit more balanced and comforted and stable before you continue. But that's the beauty of it, is we are different, and scents will respond differently and trigger different responses, which are going to trigger different behavioral reactions that we have, or driving our behaviors,
Right.
when we're working on a task or a project.
Right. Well, and that goes, again, it goes all the different ways, because even as a therapist, I used to use aromatherapy in my office, and a couple of clients would come in and have a very strong reaction to it. And I would think, oh, right, like lavender doesn't speak to everybody. Eucalyptus doesn't speak to everybody. Some people have very strong reactions. I have friends who aren't allowed to wear any perfume at work because they say that some people have allergies, or some people do not appreciate strong scents. So when someone's feeling really overwhelmed or anxious, what's actually happening when they smell something like lavender? Is that measurable biology, or is that a placebo effect?
Well, it could be a little bit of both. And, when we are taking an scent, and, we do have scientific studies showing that lavender, for many people, it is measurable effects. So we're going to see lower blood pressure, a slower heart rate, an increased sense. Our parasympathetic nervous system is calming down so we can relax and have more of a sleep quality. But then sometimes there's a conditioning to scent, which is where maybe the placebo effect could apply here, is, smelling, or you think you're smelling, or you see a picture where you're visualizing lavender, or you're visualizing yourself smelling lavender. It might have that response, or it might not, based on what's going on. And we do have to consider your hypersensitivity level. As with anything, there's safety precautions that should be followed. And one of them is addressing and assessing somebody's hypersensitivity level. Because for somebody very raw in a traumatic event or through a grief situation is going to respond differently than maybe somebody 3 months out, 6 months out, 10 months out. And so we want to really assess that, but you can measure it through biology with, like I said, with heart rate, with blood pressure, just how you're feeling, the anxiety level, doing a rating system, on a scale of 1 to 10, how anxious are you before you smell it, and how anxious are you after it? We are going to see the science behind that, but then we also have our conditioning to those scents, and then our hypersensitivity level that we need to consider.
Yeah. Well, and I was also thinking, and we didn't really discuss this, but I was also thinking, a friend of mine the other day texted me and said that she has another family member in the hospital, and she just lost a family member, and they were in the hospital for days. And she's like, I'm so triggered by hospitals, by the smells, the sounds, and all the thing. And as I'm talking this through with you, and I wonder too if our audience is thinking the same thing, can one smell help balance another? So in other words, if she is calmed by something by lavender, if she is calmed by a vanilla candle, could it be said then that she could light a vanilla candle, or she could bring some lavender, and that would help her reset in an environment that has smells that trigger her?
Yeah, and that's part of the aromatherapy anchoring method, bringing in a scent and pairing it And we're doing it twofold. You can bring in a scent to help set a habit. So, for example, if you're trying to create a new habit, you can bring in scent to remember that and trigger that. And I remember back in college when I was getting my psychology degree, one of the studies, even back then, we were learning that whenever you're doing a task and you pair a scent with it, if you use that scent or pair that scent at the time you need memory retrieval, or in this case, you need to calm down the nervous system, it's going to be so much more impactful and profound. So we're using it to establish a behavior, but then also to calm and anchor you in this sense of calm and peace and safety and security.
So it's interesting that you said that, and I'm sorry that I interrupted. I got kind of excited there, but I thought that's so true. It's almost like Pavlov's dogs, right? With the whole, what was it? Ringing the bell? How could I have forgotten that already? But it's like it was embedded in my brain for so many years, but the retrieval isn't there. But it's kind of that same thing. I never really thought about that. Smelling something as a way to trigger that smell with the act of doing. And so therefore that smell will motivate you to do and do again. And so scent is aligned with action. I love that. I think that that's awesome. And it goes along with the fact that scent is also aligned with sleep. For instance, like some people use lavender before they go to bed. So they use scent to anchor them to whatever activity they want to embed in their brain and in their body. Okay, that makes sense. I like that. That makes sense. Okay. So
it's a type of conditioning. It is a type of conditioning just to tell your body, hey, when you smell this scent, calm down. Or easily before, if you're not motivated to work out, you can smell some citrus oils or something uplifting to get you in the mood and to anchor you in, being in that headspace to tackle a habit and stick with it.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. So you have this pause and inhale practice. Well, I have a pause and inhale practice too. Mine's different from yours. So hopefully we all have a pause and inhale practice where we practice breathing. I don't know about all of you, but I practice it all the time. But yours obviously is different because it is very much aligned with scent and it sounds deceptively simple. But can you teach us how to do this? Very simplistic, very concise, and explain how just one intentional breath can reset our nervous system. Your shorthand version of this.
Yeah, and it's very similar. So, of course, we want to pause whatever we're doing, put everything down, and we just want to pause because that's going to bring you into this moment right now, right? Our head is about 10 light years ahead of what our hands can physically keep up with. So, we just want to bring ourselves into this moment, and that's what the pause is. And then, like you said, with the breathing exercises, very similar to inhaling and exhaling, I'm going to add one piece to what we already know by pausing and inhaling, and that's grabbing an essential oil. And we pause, we breathe that in. This is wafting. We waft it underneath our nose. You breathe it in, and you're breathing in and just really connecting with that scent. And on the exhale, you release any stress that maybe this scent just triggered. So anytime you smell a scent, it's triggering thoughts, memories, emotions, people, places, things that are going on in your life. Some are happy, some are not. And so it can reinforce the happy, but it can also bring forward what's not. So we can release that. And then you're going to take it a little step further and you're going to ask, what thoughts did come up? What emotions, memories, people came to my mind first thing before you interject? And where are you feeling it in the body? Because it's telling you what emotions is stepping forward that needs to be healed or that's ready to be released, that might be driving your behaviors. And where you're feeling it in the body is telling you where it's hidden and maybe the root cause of what's triggering some health conditions that you're going through right now.
Okay, that's interesting. I like the part that you're not just inhaling and letting it, do what it does to your nervous system, but you're then saying, okay, who'd you think of first? Wow, that's pretty powerful because who you think of first when you're smelling something is very telling in and of itself. And then what emotions come up when you think about that person and where do you feel in your body? That's a pretty loaded concept, and that makes a lot of sense. I think that that would be interesting for people to do that, because it goes back to what I said. If I smell a scent that an old teacher wore that I didn't appreciate, whereas I smell a scent that reminds me of my mom, I'm going to have a very different response emotionally, but also I'm going to feel it in my body in a different way. So, you talked about emotional anchoring already, and I think that that's something I, for one, and I hope all of you will hold on to, how that anchoring can help us stick to routines, or it can help us build a routine like working out or going to bed. I like that idea of emotional anchoring, but you also have what you call a scent map method. And you said that you could walk us through this, maybe, a shorthand version, or maybe even demonstrate it. Is that kind of what you were just doing with the scent map? What did you already kind of cover that?
It's paired together. And so with the scent map method, we're actually, we're using that process, which is an olfactory sensory testing process. But we're going to use different oils because that's going to help navigate our emotions. It's helping us map out this journey that we're going on. Because in a session using the scent map method, we're going to smell maybe 5, 10 oils. And each oil is going to trigger different thoughts, memories, and emotions. And we're going to map that out. So the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions that come up, where you're feeling it in the body, but then also other things that come in. So for example, if you tell me, oh, that scent reminded me of this teacher that I didn't quite like, there's probably some emotions that came up during that you don't realize are driving your behavior today. Maybe a little bit more self-doubt or uncertainty of yourself, low self-esteem or self-confidence. And so as we smell the oils and we map this out, we can uncover and identify hidden emotions that are buried and trapped within organs and tissues within our body. But then also why they're stored in these particular organs is going to help you understand and coach someone through their health challenges that they're experiencing. Whether that's, muscle fatigue in the body, muscle pain, joint pain, or, we have gut issues going on, or, respiratory issues we know are related to grief. Mapping that out can let you see the whole story. So then you can customize an aromatherapy blend for them and pair that with the other lifestyle, the food, the movement, the herbal supplementation plan that you're putting it together. So it's going to make it a well-rounded approach for somebody to have a whole body, holistic healing plan that's going to get them, quicker results because we're bringing in scent.
Yeah. Well, and really that's what I hear you saying, is you're saying scent, for lack of a better term, scent therapy, aromatherapy. This isn't a one and done. It is a holistic approach. It's an integrative approach to, smell matters, sound matters, sight matters, all the senses matter. It's why there's a grounding technique where, 5 things you smell, 4 things you hear, or however, because our senses all come into play, and how we store memory, how we respond to situations. So it's not that scent is a standalone type of fix it all, but scent is part of I think that what we're really, really realizing in our world and in our culture is that mental and physical well-being is so comprehensive and layered. And it's not as simple as I'm going to get a therapist and talk it through. I wish it was, because that's the space that I live in, but it's just not like that. It's also, I need to find movement that's going to make me healthy. Scent is going to matter. Sight is going to, what I'm looking at is going to matter. What motivates me visually. So it's a comprehensive approach, and it makes sense to me that you're saying this should be part of it. So I have a question that we didn't talk about, and I'm just curious. When you're working with people, what's a success story that you've had where, maybe even yourself, where you really came to realize the power of scent and aromatherapy in healing, or in processing, or motivation? I don't care where you take it from here.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it all started with me personally. 23 years ago, I had a life-threatening Crohn's and IBS health state. And I can't say I found aromatherapy. I think it found me. And that was my first introduction to what aromatherapy is. I had no idea, but it really helped. And I saw the power that when you have poor gut health, you also have poor mindset, right? There's more depression that can happen because all the neurotransmitters can't get to the brain and hormones are off. And that's a whole other topic. But I found relief, and I found this sense of my anxiety was less, my depression was less. I was able to think for myself and make more confident decisions using aromatherapy. And over the last 23 years, I've helped thousands of clients. And I can think of one in particular that was very special because this person had a lot of grief in her life. She struggled. She was so brilliant, but she struggled on an emotional level and really fighting some negative thoughts and dark thoughts of depression and anxiety just ruled her life, and she wasn't able to function. She was more of a functional depressant, which sometimes is harder. And so we were able, and we did a holistic health consultation, and like you said, with talk therapy, and it was great. When we introduced scent, it just uncovered, it like cut through all of the guesswork, all of this. Okay, let's, just try to figure things out. It's going to take us 3 weeks to figure things out. It went right in very precisely to the exact place. It gave us this endpoint, this entry point to unfold. And after one session, it was like the life brought back in her, and she doesn't cry. She's never been able to cry. She was taught to stuff it in the box, but she cried, which we call an emotional release during that session. And she's like, I don't know that I've ever felt like myself the way I do now. And now I feel hopeful, and I feel like I can do anything. And it was that glimmer of hope in her eyes. I mean, I'll never forget how I felt, and being the person to navigate that. And that's just one of thousands of stories. I mean, I see it time and time again that we're able just to cut through the guesswork and go right in where they're ready. So we don't have to tiptoe and hem and haw around, let's figure out where we're going to go from here. Scent doesn't let you lie to yourself because there's no judgment. It just loves you, and it opens that up. And it brings you to the exact place where you feel comfortable enough to go, okay, this thought just came up. This is where I'm feeling it because there's a system here. And that starts the dialogue, and they feel seen, and they feel heard, and they feel understood, sometimes for the first time. And that's the beauty of integrating it into what you're doing. And you're right, it's not a one and done, it's a process. But it's a beautiful process that helps somebody feel maybe safer, in a gentle way to share.
Well, and I also think that there's something to be said for being able to talk about something external to get to your thoughts and emotions by talking about something external. So what I'm saying by that is some people cannot get to their emotions. They don't have words. So this is why psychedelics, again, drive down the ego. No matter how anybody feels about it, it's a fact, right? And so they use psychedelic therapy. Well, this is kind of a way of saying a person doesn't have to be able to have cognition or to be able to exactly get to how they're feeling and why. But you can give them a scent, and there can be like, oh, well, I can talk about that scent. I'm not really talking about me. But it really does get to the core of, well, I am talking about you, but I'm driving down that defense by letting you talk about a scent and your association to that. And then stories unfold. And so I think that for me, my approach too in therapy is just tell me stories, because stories give me insight into your world. And it's not like you're having to come in and just say, well, this is going on and this is going on. Through your stories, I'm going to pick up on things, but that makes sense. So Jennifer, I just have one quick final question for you. If somebody wanted to travel through scent today and they don't own a single essential oil, can you give them a quick, simple tip on how to do that?
Yeah, just walk into your kitchen, open up your cabinet, and, smell your cinnamon spice or oregano or fresh cut lemon, bringing in smell. And I want to add that even if you cannot smell, if you have anosmia, no sense of smell, or hyposmia, low sense of smell, lack of smell, this will still work. Those scent molecules still make its way into your brain, travel through your vagus nerve, and communicate with your body. So just go into your kitchen and grab a scent and smell it. It's going to work that way and help you connect, and you can still walk through this process. And then you can also visualize yourself walking through a meadow or walking up and smelling a rose. And sometimes just that energetic connection or that visualization will work. And to your point before, what I love about the sense of smell in aromatherapy is it does help your head articulate what your heart is feeling. So when you don't have those words to articulate, it will still help you connect with that in a way. So walking into your spice cabinet, smelling that, or just thinking or looking at a picture of a flower is a great way to start this practice and see where that transport you back in time. It's a fun, it can be fun if we let it to revisit our personal mile markers in life that make us who we are today. But it doesn't have to be so daunting. It can be refreshing, especially when you pair scent with it.
Well, and I wrote that down. It lets your head articulate what your heart is feeling. And so I like that, the emotional anchoring. I like that we can use scent to drive motivation, to drive behavior. So, Jennifer, before we go, if people want to reach out to you, what's the quickest, easiest way to reach you?
The best way to reach me is go to jensense.com, JENNSCENTS.com. And you can connect with me there. I have lots of resources, and then anything that you need. I would love to help, bring this work and integrate it into what you're doing, because I'm so passionate about it, and it's so powerful, just to help us dive a little bit deeper.
Yeah, well, and I feel your passion and I appreciate your passion. So, and I appreciate all of you tuning into Strong Mind, Strong Body. Let us know if you have any questions or you have any episode topics that you would love to see or hear about. We will see you next week.